It's the whole concept of when something stays in motion, it's much easier to maintain than to do the natural start and stop on any kind of activity.
Well, that kind of, I don't know. So we're both self-employed, both hustlers, and I think it's more important probably to learn to take a rest. It's like, how do you balance those two? Like, what is it? How do you know when you've lost momentum? Like, what is it? What does it mean to, like, what's the bounds of momentum?
Well, there's somebody who was on my show not too long ago, and he actually runs his business a very unique way that I hadn't seen before. He has like his top 3 things every morning. Him and his team get together, and they define the top 3 things that they have to work on
For the day,
and they focus on one thing at a time until it gets to a point of some sort of completion or a stop of some kind, and then they move on to priority number 2 until it gets to a certain point. And they don't go to any of the other things. They don't let anything else distract them until they come to a stopping point.
Well, that's definitely smart. Yeah, that's prioritization. How is momentum? I mean, what is, if momentum is important, what's the opposite of momentum? How do you know you've lost it? How do you, because I always am trying to introduce brakes into myself. I feel like I'm trying to slow myself down.
And I think we're defining this a little too granular. I'm talking about just making sure that you're actually working towards a direction or goal every single day.
Yeah.
Because there's just some days where you just don't feel productive. You're just not seeing that level of effort, and the next thing you know, you look back on what you did that day, and it was wasted on whether it's doom scrolling or stuff that actually didn't move the needle.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to the show where we explore the who, what, when, how, and why of the extraordinary people who define our north of normal metro. I'm Conrad Fargo, and this is the Fargo Five. Today we have Jack Haas, who is the founder of Apleo, amongst many other things. I have you in my phone as House Dudes. You've been doing a lot of things for a long time. Hello, Jack. Welcome.
Yeah, nice to see you again.
Yeah, so the first thing I like to talk about is what it is you do. So if we catch you on a regular day, what are you up to? What is it that you're building momentum with regularly?
Well, I help a lot of small businesses these days be found locally, whether it's through web development to, local SEO. Is a really hot topic right now.
Yeah.
As we talked before hitting record, it's becoming increasingly more and more difficult to stand out amongst the AI slop that is kind of deluge on social media.
Absolutely.
And being that local forward is actually a great way to stand out.
So you're not doing more broad SEO work, or you are?
That's part of the just kind of an encompass thing.
And so is it a lot of meetings with people? Like how much you've been doing on your own? You're like a solopreneur type guy for a long time, right? And I mean, what you're doing now is mostly local then? Because you even have a podcast.
Yeah, mostly local. In fact, there was kind of a pivot there because I did have something I was trying to do nationally.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of listen to the market. Right?
Yeah.
I introduced some things locally to help some people I knew with some things. And I was just getting way more traction in the local area.
Yeah.
And I just had to, like I said, listen to the market and adapt accordingly.
Well, do you mind detailing a little bit, like what is the work that you were doing? So the people who were local, was kind of the spark for a pivot here, and that's now what you're focused on. So what is it that you're doing to help them locally? You first sit down and have a coffee, and you just look at all of their exposure, or what's the work look like for you?
Yeah, well, the first thing is that let's talk, more people engage me with the local SEO and what that means. That can be anything from Google business profile optimization with, as vague as that sounds, to reviewing their website, how that's locally aligned, But more importantly, you probably heard of brand guidelines in marketing, right?
Sure.
Like everybody has brand guidelines.
Corporate has them, like Berkshire Hathaway. I'm a realtor. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Premier Properties. I said that once. I don't have to say it again in the whole show. Berkshire Hathaway has corporate guidelines. It's mostly just stuff I get handpicked on from the marketing department. Do people want that? Like, are they coming to you, or you're suggesting it?
Well, I'm using that as a comparison because where things fall apart for most people is that your Google business profile and your website should support each other, and most people don't even want to think about it, let alone go to that level. And
so, when you're sitting down, are you just saying, all right, show me your Google business profile, show me your website? Are they coming to you with specific asks, or you're taking a holistic look at everything that they have going on and making the suggestions?
Well, I typically start there, right? Yeah. It's where things go a little different in my world is that I'm a very numbers-driven person.
Yeah.
And I think you've even seen like some of the heat maps I hand out.
Yeah, that was very cool.
So
I think I have it.
So I don't go with what the owner actually is feeling about associated with this type of thing. I actually will go and see how people are finding them or businesses like them in the community, and then make the necessary adjustments to be found better. A great example is I'm working with a local med spa. They were optimizing everything for the term med spa, but people weren't finding them that way. They were finding them through dermatology. So when I made that adjustment and we optimized that way, including, their website is about to launch as well, we've moved them into the second position in Fargo.
Wow.
Because we adjusted accordingly. So they've seen a 25% increase in the number of phone calls they're getting.
So is most of the services you're optimizing is going to be online stuff then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be, because when you were talking about dermatology versus med spa, you're talking like Google AdWords?
I don't do AdWords.
Oh, okay. So how are you pivoting them from quote unquote med spa to dermatology?
Well, I do use tools called SERPs. They're search engine, tools that allow me to see
that's a thing.
What people are actually searching for.
Okay.
And when I collect that data, that actually drives the direction we take this information and how you present yourself online, not based on the perception of what the person really wants.
So I like to talk turkey a little bit. Like, what does something like that run? Like, how are you billing for that? How do you charge people for these? Because I know you're a real numbers guy, and you would probably admit, like, it's difficult to put the project in a box. Define it.
Well, it depends on the lift and the level of competition, and I hate to say that it depends, but usually when you think in this scenario, what I've actually been advising people to do is that if they are making any kind of investment in pay-per-click, that type of stuff, some of that stuff is kind of a hole they're throwing money into, and they're not really seeing the results. So if we redirect some of that capital to a 90-day engagement, we typically can see a movement of the needle, and then I provide bi-weekly reports showing how we are making, how what we're doing is actually adjusting their map, and then adjusting and pivoting accordingly based on the information that's presented to us.
Well, and because I'm imagining, I do consulting for small businesses through the Small Business Development Center. A lot of them are startups, so they're not already spending money. Like they've never even developed a marketing budget. If they were to decide, this idea of local, because what you're saying there with the local, and we were talking, right? Like, I don't know if the future is local, but the future of the future is going to move in two directions, don't you feel?
Yeah.
Like you're either going to get locked into the screen and the AI and the Instagrams and the short form and the phone and everything, you're in the DoorDash, and you're never leaving your house, and you're having a remote job, or you're actually leaving the house and interacting with the living, right? Like,
Yep.
I really feel that we are at a pivot point historically where things are going to bifurcate. And so if you don't want to be part of the online slop world, which is, like you said, did you already say that online where
Yep.
or on the air, where it's just content is just burying us all,
Right.
and everything is just sucking our attention. If you're not doing that, then you need to be face to face with real human beings, which means local, right? And,
Yes.
and is that a part of your vision, or where are you coming from on that?
Well, I don't know if you're asking about AI at this point, but I do think that that's where we kind of stand out.
Okay.
Being personable, being real. Look at how much AI slop gets thrown
Yeah.
on social media
Yeah.
because people jump on these trends, and it's
Yes.
easy to generate whatever action figure in a bubble.
But when you see it, you already, and it's so new, but already we see it and we go, oh, that's AI stuff. And
Yep.
you just, I think most of us, or is it actually just, because you and I are the world of the living people, right? Like, we're the face-to-face interacting people. Is it us, or is it everybody is kind of sick of the AI slop already?
Well, if you look at the stats, like even the younger generations are really sick of it, and then they actually will do anything to avoid it.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It's one of those things that it seems like there's a trend that people hate it,
Yeah.
but they need to adopt it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a catch-22.
Well, responsible use. I say this about AI all the time. I call it the wig principle. Have you heard me say that? Where when you if you wanted to, you could wear a toupee, right? And I'm almost gonna need one here. I'm getting to be that way. And everyone says, don't wear a toupee. They look terrible. You don't know that. The only reason you think toupees are terrible is because the bad ones stick out, right? And like, there's many things like that in this world, and I think AI is like that. Bad AI sticks out, but if you're actually doing it correctly, almost you can't even tell that it's AI. Does that?
You're speaking my language when it comes to this stuff. And there's strategies that allow us to adopt things so it doesn't look like AI. I have one example recently where I did a website for a realtor down in the Twin Cities. And this is where the podcasting actually has helped me quite a bit, because what I did was I brought him, it was just a Zoom call, and I recorded it and interviewed him for an hour. And then I used that as context to build his website.
You just ripped all the transcription and just dumped it right into AI and said, build me content.
And I got probably the greatest compliment I could have, because he told me his wife actually teared up when she read his About Me page.
Yeah.
And it's that extraction that I've adopted that really kind of helps the website become far more local and shines locally. And people just frankly hate dealing with it.
Yeah.
But you spend an hour with me on a Zoom call, and we can extract some of that information out.
And so, again, I kind of want to go back to talking turkey, because this sounds like something that I want to advocate for. Like, I'm not just blowing smoke. Jack, we've known each other a long time, and I've always gotten a good vibe from you. I like you, and I really like what you have going on here. But if I'm saying to somebody who's a new upstart, they're already having a tough time making ends meet, and I say to them, go give Jack what? $100, $1,000, $10,000, like
yeah.
what?
Well, it's going to start at a couple thousand.
Yeah.
In the end, it's all about the value. Like I did a local website recently, and I walked in, and they just kind of made the calculation. It would have taken them tens of, if not hundreds of hours to build a website themselves. It was worth it in the end for them to have somebody do it. And an hour interview with Jack beat them
10 hours, 20 hours of like actually trying to put it together themselves.
Right.
And what's your hourly worth? So yeah, trying to leverage that there. So definitely your clients need to be people who are already cash flowing and profitable.
Yeah, it's typically, or they want to launch with a strong local footprint.
Yeah.
And, and
they're willing to invest in that jump off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said that this was a new development, that you were doing more national. And, of course, your podcast, which I've listened to, is more nationally oriented because your guests certainly aren't local only. So when did this pivot come about? How long have you been doing the local focus?
Probably towards the beginning of the year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it goes all about, like, if you want any kind of sign that things are moving more and more local and more intimate, it's that. Like, a lot of the national stuff that I was doing was, other than having a fairly large network nationally, the people that I was talking to, they already have like significant teams that they've engaged with to do some of the work that I do on that national level. And a lot of the stuff that I was doing locally was just because some buddies needed some help. Yeah. And I was just like, okay, let's do this. And again, listening to the market, it makes a lot more sense in this day and age with automations and AI and everything. Everything is becoming more and more just generic.
When it's a 1-2 punch. So a lot of it has to do with globalization, right? I think that's a conversation to be had very maturely and very carefully. You stopped me from getting political the other day, which I appreciate. I don't ever want to talk politics, but, statements of fact and in reality, like for a lot of these national services, you're competing also globally, aren't you? And it's difficult to be competitive when you can get a personal assistant from Indonesia who you pay $5 an hour versus, I need $2,000 to sit with me. So I feel with globalization, that process began, and then now with AI, it's almost a maturation of the process where the final conclusion is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I got all kinds of examples of that. I did help one real estate investor implement in an hour, a small automation to help him customize his posts to the different social medias because, a LinkedIn audience is different from an Instagram audience, is different from a Facebook audience. Yeah. So I spent an hour putting that together for him, and a weird flex, but he let 2 of his virtual assistants go because he just didn't need them anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of and so that's kind of the arc, isn't it? So a lot of the local work gave way to national work and, lost out internationally and was kind of replaced with international personal assistants and international workers, mechanical Turks, the like. And then they are being replaced with AI because as affordable as they are, nothing's as affordable as the free robot in your phone, right?
Yeah.
And so now the only thing left is the local. Yeah. And that was that like an intentional, or it sounds more just the national work was almost drying up for you, or because this is now your push, right? So at what was the pivot point where you're like, this is the push now is to go local? Like, where did you get those vibes?
Well, it was kind of cool to not only have these local conversations, but then seeing the drastic changes that were being made, like measurable changes, and how it actually impacted. I bring up the med spa, but when you can actually see the numbers, the movement there, and how it actually impacts a local business, it's very rewarding.
The most difficult part of any business, so it sounds like working local is kind of new for you because you were doing so national. The hardest part of any business is just getting people to give you money, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you've been doing a lot of things for a long time. Like, why is it? So what is? I guess what I'm trying to say is, what does speculation look like for you? How are you finding your clients, and how are you pitching yourself to them?
Well, I got to be honest. I think that's one of the things that was difficult nationally.
Yeah. Huh.
The like, what do you exactly do?
Yeah.
And what do I do now when I go to a networking group? I'm becoming the guy that has a handout. so that people can actually see like measurable results in what I do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to communicate some of that stuff through email. And how many people do you reach via cold email these days?
Yeah.
That's becoming increasingly difficult.
Well, and this brings back around to something I wanted right at the top was in my head. So like I do a lot of consulting for small businesses. I do it through the SBA, and my number one piece of advice is to keep it local and go to networking groups where you're face to face with people. Like I don't have, and I've never successfully used digital anything to because I do the real estate, which we've mentioned, but I have a cleaning business, I have a bookkeeping business. My wife sells bread sometimes. I mean, she puts a Facebook post, but we're not advertising. I've never spent an online marketing dollar and actually had anything ever work. Mm-hmm. I've thrown money at Facebook ads and gotten zero response. I know people can buy Zillow ads, but you're just going to get Pop-Tarts. I mean, you're going to get people who want you to open a door and then they never talk to you again. Mm-hmm. Building that relationship personally is the most effective thing. And so I'm always saying, just meet people face to face. Meet people face to face. Like that's always my advice. But it sounds like you have local tools, or you feel like there are digital platforms or digital ways to create that face-to-face interaction locally. I mean, you understand kind of what I'm getting at?
Well, in my world, it's anything that's done online or digitally. It's to drive that initial face-to-face or phone call, like that actual human interaction.
Yeah.
That's the end goal. And most of the stuff is the low-hanging fruit is the speed to lead situation. A lot of small businesses, I hate to say it, but the contractors in town, a lot of them have a terrible time with simple follow-up.
Okay.
So if I generate that initial, and it's usually a deeper engagement. So what happens is that, I'll get that initial engagement for local SEO, and they want help with getting those additional leads. But then it's like a leaky bucket at that point. They might be getting the extra leads, but now how are they capturing them? How are they following up with them? How are they handling some of those inquiries that are coming in? And then we can implement some other things to actually engage or follow up. Or it's all about, if somebody's calling in, we don't want them calling the next person in line when they're doing a search for something in particular. They want to feel like somebody is working on their problem. They're calling you for a reason. To not answer the phone call, I understand, but we got to at least follow up and get in front of them.
Well, I often talk about businesses exist on two spectrums, and I've experienced both sides of them, both in real estate, and then I had a cleaning business that I did in earnest for like 10 years. The problem with the real estate is that there's infinite work. There's infinite workers, right? So like I often say, there's 500 homes for sale and there's 1,000 realtors trying to sell that same 500 homes, right? So if I had more work than I knew what to do with in real estate, I could get a team underneath me tomorrow. I got a lot of hungry realtors who I could just give work to, and they would pitch back up to me, and I'd be a millionaire. On the flip side of that, you've got the cleaning company where there's infinite work, but no workers. Like I could go out there and get the work, but like you said, the leaky bucket, things like that, it's finding ways. So the bottleneck there is more in like finding the work. And so these are going to be different. And it sounds like you offer different solutions for different sides of that. For fixing the leaky bucket, yes. I want to think more about, so we had said how there's just so much, and so like in real estate, how there's just, everybody's like, I can help you sell a house, right? So what is it that you do as far as, because you said you've helped a few realtors, what is it that you do so that they can stand out, or they can be the one that people are calling? Like it's got to be very competitive because there's so many, it's such an oversaturated field.
Yeah, but well, in the end, it goes back to that locality again. Okay. It's, if I can give people any kind of advice, is that if you're not posting to your Google business profile like it's a social network, I would prioritize that over posting to Facebook.
Wow.
Just because, people, that is a trust signal to Google that you're an active business. think about how you're found these days, or how you found the last person you worked with, whether it's a plumber or what have you. You typically type in your phone, plumber near me, or plumber in Fargo, or what have you. Take a look at those search results and see who is in the top 3. If you're not in the top 3, less than 20% of the people will click on more businesses to see who else is on that list.
And so you've been doing this 6 months locally, but how long have you been doing? Because when I met you, must have been 9 years ago. You were house dudes.
Yeah.
And that was, you were like flipping houses.
Yeah.
Like that. So you're a pretty handy guy, to say the least, right? Like you're putting your hands on it and doing the actual work yourself, right? I mean,
I've never been the contractor guy.
Okay.
And so most of the stuff that I'm doing today actually derived from solving my own problems.
Yeah.
Whether it was property management or what have you, it was implementing solutions to fill those holes. We had our own leaky bucket.
Yeah, well, and so I want to kind of paint. So we're about halfway through, and I want to paint the how it is that you came to be here. So I'm trying to get my hands on the pivot point. The local thing was a pivot point to local, but before that, you were doing nationally. You were still doing kind of like the SEO kind of stuff, right? The how do we even describe it? Marketing consultant, I suppose, right? How long have you been doing the marketing consulting?
Well, I've been doing this for our own stuff for, like you said, probably 9 years.
Okay.
Most of it actually, it's always the local SEO stuff is actually more recent in adding that as a service, because again, adapting to what market was asking for. Most of the stuff that I'm actually engaging with, as later in a relationship, is the lead to speed, the automatic follow-ups, like you mentioned, you have a ton of people in your contact list.
Yeah.
It's that re-engagement of your database, the re-engagements that actually can move a needle really quick. Like, in as much as I just kind of trash the concept of generic emails,
yeah,
there's ways in which to re-engage those relationships and start to have some of those personal contacts. As you know, you've been in this business as long as I have, that it's inched up to, you got to make 7 to 12 contacts with somebody now before they make some sort of effort. So it's a matter of getting in front of them and some of your messaging in front of them as frequently and as quickly to that 7 to 12 as you can to get things moving forward.
And so it started with you doing, I want to get the picture of the story, the personal story of, because you've pivoted to the local. Before that, you were doing national. But how did you start doing national consultations? Because it sounds like you were doing it for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So you were flipping houses, doing property management, stuff like that. When did that? And so everything you learned from there, you've decided just to focus on the marketing aspects of that to help others.
Yeah,
right.
And the national stuff happened because my podcast, right?
So the podcast came first.
Yeah, the podcast. I've been doing that podcast now for 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it's been going on that long.
And those relationships, and it was strictly to build those relationships in the real estate community.
So the podcast was the jump off for you to start going national.
Well, and then when some of those people, like, I'd have little conversations before or after the show.
Yeah.
And then we was like, how do you handle this? How do you handle that? And then one thing would lead to another, and I was implementing automations for some people or what have you.
Where did that? So you said for 10 years. When's the last time you had a job?
I've had jobs like really recently. When COVID hit, it really caused a problem. So I took a job with a company out of Texas, and I was working from home.
As like a W-2 job.
A W-2 job.
What was that? What was that job? So, because I've known you 10 years.
That was IT. It was MSP, Microsoft Solution Provider.
Okay, and
then I was working at Microsoft, of course. And
oh wow, I didn't know you had taken that little break. So, when I met you, though, you were House Dudes. That was just starting. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How did House Dudes begin? What's the origin story with that?
We were trying to plan our escape at the lunch table.
Yeah.
At Microsoft.
So you started at Microsoft, doing IT stuff.
Yeah, I was getting in to various sales roles or partner enablement type roles. Yeah.
And what's that like? I mean, I haven't had a job. I've never really had a real job, so I don't. What's it like? And how old were you then? You had an 8-year-old when you were still working there. How long were you at Microsoft?
Yeah, I was there for, as a vendor and a Microsoft employee for 9 years.
Yeah. And but you didn't care for it. You were always planning your escape.
Well, it wasn't that I didn't care for it. It's just that there's certain roles, and I had great opportunities there because when something new happened or something new was presented, it was just like throw Jack at it, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, kind
of thing. So I had a number of positions over there. Some of them better than others.
When it seems anybody who's had a job, it seems like that's the benefit. If it's a larger organization, you can move up, you can leverage their scale, so that the things you're doing have such a great reach. But like you said, you and your friends over the lunch table would plan your escape. Tell me more about that. Like, what is? Well,
how many real estate people say that they started with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but that's one of those books that kind of spurred things. Then we started listening to podcasts and then talking about it. And
well, no, I want to. I mean, that's where I want to spend the time though. Is with the origin story. What I want to do is understand So if you had never read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, maybe you wouldn't be here. You'd still be working at Microsoft, right?
Right.
Is that where it's at? Like you just came across the book, but why did you get that book? Like who gave you the book?
Well,
where did you get the book from?
It's that's one of those things that I'm. In fact, I think my family kind of gets sick of me because I'm that guy that typically has a podcast or an audiobook playing in my pocket as I'm walking around the house.
Hey, me too.
Or what have you.
That's why I started a podcast. Yeah. I was like, I'm always listening. I'm like, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. I want to have those parasocial relationships.
Right.
I want to live in people's heads. And so you were always listening. What kind of so I'm always listening. That's the thing. I'm always listening to political podcasts and spicy ones. Like I'd get in trouble if you knew, what a crazy person I am. I can't talk that way because I'm in real estate, so it's like my outlet. It's my I live vicariously through them. It sounds like maybe you're listening to more productive adult podcasts that are maybe healthier.
Well, I would have been right there with you regarding the spicy political ones there for a while. However, again, I had to take an assessment or an inventory of what I was consuming, and it's one of those things, whatever you focus on grows. And if you focus on the negativity and things that you really don't have a ton of direct influence on.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot influence politics. Your one vote is statistically unlikely to make it. That's just a statement of fact, right?
Right. So again, it goes back to locality again,
locus
right?
of control. So you made that personal assessment again before Rich Dad Poor Dad?
I was doing that kind of during the last, over the 9 years, I'd kept ejecting different things from my life. Just like, okay, this isn't really helping my situation. So why am I giving it any attention?
I think that's super healthy. I think people, and I say this all the time, right? Anybody can load up opportunities like a glutton at a buffet. The real genius is in knowing what to cut. And so whenever somebody talks about, I started cutting this out of my life, started cutting that out of my life, that gets me excited because I know that running leaner and more focused is almost always the answer. Were you always like that kind of a person? Where did you get the sensibility to do that?
I can't even tell you where I got that. It was just, and it could be any number of gurus, if you will, because I've listened to so much. You start to wonder where some of this stuff comes from.
Can you share because podcasting is? Can you share what your first podcast that you used to listen to, or they're probably not for public knowledge? I couldn't share mine.
Oh,
I don't want people to know. What I started with, but
so Do you want the business ones or do you want the spicy ones?
Well, no, and so I guess what I'm saying, so it started with the spice. Like the reason you were listening to podcasts is you were you were a spice junkie.
Yeah, the drama sucks everybody in, right?
Absolutely.
Like the conspiracy theories
absolutely.
And people love to stay in their own echo chamber.
Absolutely.
And
Feels
when
great.
you start to question their echo chamber, they actually will get angry and dig in their heels, and it's actually difficult to break somebody out of one. So it's those type of things that I realized that I was in an echo chamber, and in the end, the stuff that's getting you all hot and bothered.
Yeah.
Like, what influence do you have over it anyway?
Yes. No. Well, so it's responsible use. I think so much of modern technology is like a drug. The short form video content, which I don't mess with because I know my limits. The doom scrolling, which I do mess with because I feel like I'm a responsible user. And it's the same thing with the spicy podcasts where it's like, okay, this is enjoyable and it's fun to do while I'm mowing the lawn or washing the dishes, right? It keeps it entertaining, and I keep it there. And if it's making me angry, I don't listen. I don't listen to stuff that makes me angry. Like I don't. I listen to Echo Chamber, where I go, that's right, yeah, right, and stick it to him, stick it to the man. It feels good to have that. I enjoy that. You had enough sensibility to say, what was the pivot point where you're like, I'm going to start cutting this? And what was the first business podcast you listened to? The first.
Well, so the first one was there was a show called Epic Real Estate.
Okay.
With Matt Terrio.
So it was a real estate podcast.
It was a real estate podcast, and that started with one of my business partners, and he had driven like across the country and back, and had just consumed all of these episodes.
And he was like, "You need to listen to this.
You need to listen to this." So I started listening to it.
And it grabbed you. It grabbed you. I mean, so because people keep giving me business podcasts, and like I've listened to your podcast, and I want to listen to it, but I'm going to turn on the spice instead every time. Like I can't get away from it. But for you like made the intentional choice, or?
Well, I've made the intentional choice to the point where when I go to a social media and where it tries to suck you into the shorts or the stuff, I will actually like business related ones so that feed stays business related. So even my doom scrolling stays focused.
When I'll only like stuff if it's text. So my doom scroll is all text. Like my wife commented, she's like, "Where's all the images?" Because hers is nothing but images. It's like, well, because I don't want to just scroll Instagram. I want.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that you can train these social medias to feed you the stuff you want.
Yeah. And so you started to train yourself, your own internal algorithm, by feeding yourself, the real estate podcast that grabbed you. So right away it was it was really your buddy.
Yeah.
While you're at Microsoft, your buddy was the one who got into real estate. He fell under the spell of a guru.
Yeah.
He gets you hooked to these real estate podcasts. Yeah. And then you just keep consuming more and more. That obviously leads to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. I've only heard of it. Why don't you tell me, like, what's the takeaway, like the 30-second or the minute synopsis?
It's, in a nutshell, it's all about the story of his real dad and his rich dad. His real dad is a college professor and stick it to the man, anti-capitalism. Yeah. And then his rich dad is the complete opposite, and it's all about buying and controlling assets to cover your living expenses. Mm.
And so just the training on the deliberate building of assets to control your life, right, and keep yourself financially, that was very attractive to you. Yeah. And so you guys would sit around at Microsoft and you would plan your escape. What does that talk like? Like, so because Rich Dad, Poor Dad, like, what is it? Like, what's the answer? Just buy a bunch of rental properties and have passive income? Like, is that the answer?
Well, and I think people make the mistake of thinking that it's just rental properties. Okay. Because I think it could be anything that can generate passive income, including owning your own business.
What does passive income mean? So that's a term. That one is, especially as a real estate professional. And it
actually makes me cringe.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, it makes me itch because people are like, "Oh, I want passive income, free money," and I'm like, "No, owning a rental property is the very definition of pain in the rear." Like, I'm like, well, do you want to sell me one or not? And I'm like, no, I want to sell you one. It's a good idea, but please know that passive, and I mean, this is how I explain it, because passive income is a tax designation, right? Like that's that. And what's amazing about and this is, have you ever thought about like this? So this is the thing with passive income. And this is, if you earn money, if you go out and work and earn it, you by yourself, you have to pay self-employment taxes on it because you earned it fair and square. But if you can demonstrate to the IRS, no, I didn't earn this money, it was totally free and passive, now you pay 15% less in taxes because you can say you didn't earn it. If you worked for it, you have to pay more in taxes. Is that correct?
I think this is where my tax professional comes in.
Okay.
This is where I don't.
No, I think that is how the tax code works.
Right.
Is that, and that is so $1,000 in rental income is not the same as earning $1,000 as a self-employed person, because that self-employed person has to pay the self-employment tax, but the rental income goes onto your Schedule E. I'm not a tax professional, this isn't tax advice, but I believe it was on your Schedule E, and so then you don't pay the self-employment tax, and that is great to turn it into, and that's why you do what's it called, S-corping, right? Where you go, you say, yeah, I earned $100,000 in self-employment, but it was really market value of that work I did was really only worth $60,000, and so 40 of that becomes passive, which saves you $6,000. You pay $6,000 less in taxes because you say, no. I know I got paid $100,000, but the market value of that work is only $60,000, and that's how S-corping works, I think. Again, I'm not a tax professional, tax advice, but that's not what it's about at all. What does it mean then, the passive income stuff? And that's what you were attracted to?
That's what I said, is that it actually kind of makes me cringe, because I rarely run into anybody after interviewing over 600 people.
Yeah.
The concept of passive investing is just a bunch of bunk.
Okay.
Like,
and that's not what Rich Dad Poor Dad's about.
It is to a certain extent. That's the whole point of it. But when you're getting into any kind of business, real estate included, there's a lot of work involved.
Yeah,
it's not mailbox money that you might have seen on late night commercials. It just doesn't work that way. Right.
And so, but the allure of that, what is it about Rich Dad Poor Dad that, I mean, what did you get excited for? How did that, because that was the pivot to what? The pivot to flipping houses, or what was the overall plan?
It was all about buying rental properties.
Okay.
And that's the bummer of it, really, is that you most people get into real estate investing, buying single family homes, and you're hoping to cash flow a few $100s a month.
Yeah.
It takes one expense.
Yep.
And you blow your entire cash flow for the year.
I mean, the real value is in the appreciation, right? So I mean,
and if you can hold it that long.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, because especially when there was a bigger spread on the interest rate, right? Like that was, and that's where the real, and that's my attraction to real estate was driven out of understanding of monetary policy. I realized we have a fiat currency. It was the crash of 2008. I was like, oh, if number were to ever actually sustainably go down, they would just print dollars until it doesn't go down, right? Like whole melt up kind of a thing. So I'm all in on real estate, but I want to rejigger all that and other passive. So what other passive, if it's not real estate, what other passive investments did you try to work on? Or
it was stock market, the cryptocurrency, and
you've dabbled in all of it.
All of it.
Okay. And in doing so what is it about the rental properties that led you to be a marketing guru? Like, how did that turn into a national?
Well, it was all about, like, the day-to-day business had to happen even when I was working full-time somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it was all about.
So you guys were still working at Microsoft when you jumped off to do that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then
and the whole AI stuff comes, like, I knew AI, it was like I knew the band before they were famous. I was, I was dabbling with machine learning and few things, before AI became AI.
At the top of it, so it was just you and one other business partner, or how many partners did you have?
Yeah, it was just me and another.
You and one other guy were the house dudes.
Yeah.
And while you were working at Microsoft, you were buying these investment properties, and you were building systems and marketing to place the renters, or what was the marketing aspect of this?
It was all about trying to talk to homeowners, them trying
So
to...
the marketing wasn't filling, it was trying to find... Yes. Well, that it leads to the other thing. So, because people always want, I get so many buyers like this where they're like, I want blah, 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 blah. And like at the end of the day, but I only want to pay bah. And at the end of the day, what they really want is a $400,000 house, but they only want to pay $350,000. And it's like, you're not going to find that on the MLS.
Right.
You can find that, but correct me on this, because this is what I would say, and it's not very flattering to the people who do it, but I would say the only way you're going to do that is by finding somebody who doesn't know what they have and offering them less than you should. Like, is that, or who were you looking for? Like, how is it that it turns into a good deal?
Well, that's I guess I could say that's a fair assessment. It's not, and I shouldn't say that we operate things very, very different when we're talking to a potential seller, because we actually, I'd like to believe we're one of the few places in town that will, like, if you came to us looking to sell a house, we tell you very clearly up front that you're actually better suited to sell this through a realtor. You know that, right?
Yeah.
And then...
Well, I think that puts you in a minority. I think a lot of those guys sending out flyers and whatnot, they're just hoping, it's somebody who bought it for $100 and they don't know that it's worth $500.
And in fact, if you'd call us, I would typically start the conversation going, why did you call me? You obviously could make way more selling it through a realtor.
Yeah.
So we usually started our conversations like that.
Yeah. And so you would get them, then you would flip them and then rent them, or you ended up selling them? What was the most you end up holding at one time as far as properties? You still have them today?
No, we sold like all of them.
Oh, yeah.
We could, the COVID kind of put an end to some of that.
Okay.
The rent moratorium really did a number on a lot of investors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that made it hard when your whole thing is, I need the cash flow.
Yeah.
And then you're not getting that cash flow.
And it's really disheartening when you drive up to your rental property because you need the rent to pay the mortgage.
Yeah.
And you see a new TV box sitting in their dumpster.
Yeah.
Just priorities just completely shifted during that time.
Yeah. Okay. So, the story of you is guy with a job, and it sounds like you kept the job a lot. How long? So you went back to Microsoft during COVID, but then now you're on your own 2 feet now. Is it because you liquidated the rental properties, and so you're able to, or you've just gotten so much work now that you're able to sustain a
Well, there's always more room for more, right? Like, the concept is actually that, I was involved in layoffs associated with the role, and it was
opportunity.
I applied for hundreds of jobs, and there was nothing like happening. So for the amount of time and effort I was putting into looking for something else, I just okay, let's pivot and focus on take an inventory. What am I good at? What can I possibly sell here?
Yeah.
And there's always been this premise is that a lot of these large companies, I found that I was very loyal and dedicated to them, but it was never reciprocated.
Absolutely.
And it's just
yes.
Okay, can I make a go of this?
100%.
Let's just chase something else.
Yeah. Rather than begging for one big job, you decided to just beg for many small jobs. I think there's a lot of us, the solopreneur types, who are out there trying to do that, and that's why I'm so big on the networking and the local stuff. We are already just about at time, but I wanted to bring it full circle, to the future here as you're, building that national brand, and your podcast is bringing in. Your podcast is basically a lead generation source, right? Which frankly, was my idea with this podcast, right? Is just not necessarily to pitch everybody who walks in the room, but more to build that network. And like you said, one thing leads to another, right? And so you're doing that. That's going well. You've gone out national. You've come back around full circle. Now you're focusing on the local. You're launching a new website. I wanted to make sure we touch on that super quick. What's this new website?
Well, it was a gap in the market in Fargo. I realized that there wasn't a central place for like a Fargo local business directory.
That's crazy.
So it's far more, MOOR, local.com. Local businesses can just claim their page.
Yeah.
Fill things out. There's some information pre-filled there, so they just have to hopefully claim their page. And then you can be the primary contact at that business. So if you are in any of my networking groups, for example, I kind of geared it towards that networking aspect because, props to the people that are showing up and in-person events, and you want to be the face or the contact in some of these businesses.
And so with this directory, not a lot of cleaning companies are going to, because they have more work than they know what to do with, but you're going to have 1,000 realtors who want to sign up. You're going to have 1,000 mortgage guys, 1,000 chiropractors, the ones where, people who are guests on this show, frankly. How are you sorting through? Are you just listing everybody? How do they gain relevance?
So this goes back to the locality again. Like if I know you through one of my networking groups, you can use a special link and claim your page without going through the whole process. Otherwise, it goes into a queue for manual review at the moment.
I see. So this is almost while the idea is to be the local source, it's Jack's
a little curation going on. But this is also a big thing, is that like for the local networking groups, you can create a page for your networking group and post your events, everything there. And then there's if you have any kind of deals or coupons or anything, you can post those there as well.
That's very cool.
So it's just kind of a central place. You can put a timer on it and what have you. So hopefully be kind of a local hub or resource. It's kind of like community project.
Absolutely. The future is local. Or no. There's got to be something pithy we can say, because I don't think that broadly the future is local. The future, the brunt of it, with globalization and then AI, like the brunt of it is serving the bigger global population. Mm-hmm. But the future that matters is to me, that, you know what I mean? Because I want flesh. I want human beings. I want to breathe the same air as another person, and
well, I think that's where AI and automations and stuff actually shine. And that's where people kind of miss it, is that you can implement these things to free up your time to have those personal connections. So that's the time you're trying to free up, because that's actually what's going to move your business forward.
Well, Jack, I think you're an interesting guy. I'm so glad that we reconnected after all the years, and I'm excited to have you on the show. We're way at time. We got to get out of here, so thank you for listening. But you wanted to listen to Rush. You said pick just anything by Rush. What is your love with Rush? What's that?
It's just one of those things in the back of your head, brain, that just tickles me just right.
Yeah, they're prog rock, right? It's so mathematically pure. I went ahead with The Trees, which is it was either going to be that or Working Man, and The Trees is what I have.
We're going to end the show with a little politics then.
Yeah, okay. Is that a political song?
Yeah, it's a story. It's a song about anti-communism.
Is it?
Yeah.
I just thought it was about wood.
Yeah,
lumbering. I thought it was anti-lumber.
Listen to the lyrics.
I thought it was against lumberjacking, Fern Gully, and all that. I thought it was like Fern Gully. It's not a Fern Gully song.
Yeah, no. When they wrote it, Neil Peart was really into Ayn Rand and stuff. So
you even said her name right. That itself is almost.
Yes, I've actually read it.
Okay. If people want to grab a hold of you, plug yourself. 30 seconds. Quick, go.
Apleo.com. Apleo.com. Everything is right there.
And you're also just locally findable. Just find you on Facebook and just say, "Hey, Jack.
Yep.
Let's be friends."
LinkedIn is great too.
Okay. And of course, I'm Conrad Fargo. You can find me anywhere you type in. I got SEO on lockdown. If you type in Conrad and Fargo, I come up. I'm the only Conrad in Fargo, I think. I'm the only one doing stuff. So Conrad Fargo, just type those 2 words on any digital device. You'll find me. Like, share, and subscribe. Jack, thank you so much for being on. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. And let's listen to some Rush and see you all next week. Goodbye.